The Oblivion Remaster has been the talk of the town, and it's no wonder. Its and subsequent release
Yeah,
is
it kind
an
of popped
event that
off.
breathed new life into the existing fanbase, and it also opened the door, or an Oblivion gate, for a lot of new players that haven't experienced the game before. Though most of the responses and discourse around the
Angelikatosh is so fun, by the way. She's a proper gamer girl.
game has been overwhelmingly positive, and
Yep.
I think deservedly so. There have been a few things
Yeah.
that have sparked controversy right off the bat and resulted in some heated debates around the internet. But even with all of that, it hasn't actually hurt the game in any way. People that had some issues just modded them out and moved on. Though I myself am very positive about this release, and I've really been enjoying playing
Yeah, I've
the
enjoyed
game,
it too.
there are a few things that I've noticed that don't really make sense to me, or I guess I just don't really understand why they would go out of their way to change them. It seems that in the remaster, female characters and depictions of women in general have been noticeably toned down, or
I did not notice this. So I watched, I put about 15 or 18 hours into Oblivion Remaster. I play on Twitch, by the way.
even censored. While they may seem
Like
like small
what?
things if you come across them, and I
Censored.
don't actually think they ruined the game, if you look at the bigger picture and how many things were affected by these particular changes, you'll start to notice a bit of a pattern that is perhaps setting a precedent and a new standard for future Elder Scrolls games and really games in general. Unfortunately, I think that a lot of these changes were made while ignoring the deeper context of the world, and it's not entirely clear
Let's see
what
an
the
example of
purpose
this.
of making these changes was. There definitely was some sort of a purpose, because it cannot be
What was the change here?
Yeah, is it because did they make it flatter? Is that it? What's wrong with boobs? I don't get it.
Like, what was the change?
Or the clothing?
Did they make that? Is it a boob reduction? Okay.
Oh, yes, it is.
Yeah. Yeah, I
What?
could expect that. Watch the video. Okay, she wasn't explaining it at the beginning, so I assumed. I wasn't sure if she just assumed that the audience knew what the difference was.
Keep going, you'll see.
a
Okay.
coincidence that all of these things were changed, but again, it's just not clear because there is a bit of inconsistency there as well. Today we're going to talk about the changes and some of the censorship affecting female characters in the game, and the kind of message that perhaps unintentionally or maybe intentionally it sends. Before we get started, hi, my name is Angelika, and I'm planning to do a sort of a special live stream soon to celebrate 100k. This is going to be kind of like
That's what I did.
Q&A style live stream. We haven't done one of those since before I had even less than 20k subscribers, so I thought that it would be a really good time to repeat that. But before we can do the stream, a very special package has to arrive, so stay
Okay.
tuned for that.
Cool.
Now, in my last video, I
Good for
noticed
her.
maybe one or two subtle things when analyzing the clothing in the game that kind of surprised me in terms of the changes that were made and why would they have changed that. Some pieces used to be a bit
Okay.
more off-shoulder, for example. Others accentuated the curves and the figure of your character a lot more.
What a surprise. Toning down the sexuality of the game in order to make mentally ill, probably fat women happy.
You know what's strange about this? Is that we have gone full circle. So initially, man, this is going to be so clipped. So initially we went from feminism going into women's right to vote. I agree with that. You know, talking about women voice and all that, okay? And then they went so around when it comes to modern activism that now they find female beauty offensive to a point that they are changing the clothes and inadvertently getting more on the Puritan side. It feels like now they went so far left that they turned the way around and they are trying to censor the same way an ultra-conservative, like old school, is like, don't show any cleavage. Like, what's going on? We're going all the way around. We're going all the way around for different reasons, I guess. But still. What on earth? How did that happen? You know, in the 50s, in the 60s, like not 50s in fact, but the 60s, the 70s, women saying, no, we can dress down how we want, to hire shirt, look, freedom. Then to, oh no, you need to cover up. Man, how does that happen?
They weren't afraid to show a little bit more skin in something low cut. That
Yeah.
said, I don't think that the original version of Oblivion was ever particularly out there or
No, it wasn't.
sexy. Sure, their clothes may have appeared more flattering, but I thought that it was all very reasonable and it didn't ever raise any eyebrows. Other than that, everybody
Yeah.
was equally a potato. Some potatoes were just very feminine. It fit the world perfectly.
Sure.
The remastered version has hidden much of what I said in the previous video, gave flair and an attitude to certain things. Others have been just straight up changed in what kind of feels like an attempt at censorship.
It's absolutely censorship. It's not even a question.
Yeah.
This is what's happened with like 10 or 20 different video games. Like, I mean, how many times does it have to happen before people think that it's happening? It's obviously happening.
He's right.
I couldn't really care less, though. I think that you should care. Because the reason why you should care is because it indicates that people care more about making sure that this video game is congruent with their current world values than
Right.
making an experience that the audience wants. And you should ask yourself this question.
That's it.
Is this what the audience wants to see?
No.
And the answer to that is probably no, right? Like, I think that we would all come to the conclusion that the answer to that
In majority, absolutely. A game should be made for gamers.
is no. And so when the answer to the question, does the audience want to see this, yes or no, is no, then why does it exist? Why are they putting something in the game that players don't want?
Yeah.
And
That's
also-
in fact, I agree with him. That's what happened with Lords of the Fallen. I actually respect the creator because they made a poll and they asked people, do you want body type 1, body type 2, or do you want male and female? And they promised that they would have implemented that based on the majority vote. And now, you can tell me all you want that the vote was skewed because they did it on Twitter, and you may think that because they did it on Twitter, then this may have been that there was like a right-wing bias into it, even though there are people who are left-wing. But I understand that maybe if they had done that on Blue Sky Social, the reviews would have been different. But let's be honest about it. Even though by doing the poll on Twitter, they got like an 85, 90% towards male and female, even if they didn't use Twitter and they went into a more neutral, I suppose, platform. And I'm not accepting necessarily the counter argument, but I'm fleshing it out for the sake of argument and taking it at face value. It's still a fact that, yeah, you may have changed the percentages a little bit, but still the majority of players prefer male and female. So the fact that they did follow that is something that I respect. And of course, if it was the other way around and 80% of people said, no, body type, I love it. Body type it is then. It's for the gamers, it's for the players, and I appreciate when developers do that.
Person who will do that doesn't respect you. They don't respect what you want. They don't respect the type of game that you
So don't give him money.
might want to play. They only want to push their idea onto you. And
Yeah.
that's it.
True.
And that will not stop at, like cleavage or whatever. This will happen to everything because this is why all of these woke games are garbage. The reason why all of these woke games are garbage is because the people making them don't care about the audience.
I mean, he's right. I know that some of you will be triggered by the fact that he used the word woke. I understand that. But let's, for a moment, remove the word woke for a second and let's not focus on that. What he's spreading is real. Up to this point, he's real.
And so you should care for that reason.
Wokatron.
I really
That's me.
missed the Huntsman's vest and the clothing video because, to be honest, I actually didn't recognize them at
So-
all when I came across them. I guess I didn't think twice about it at
Holy
the time because
moly.
this is the version that the male characters wear, and I recognized it from that, so
Oh.
it just slipped past me. Like some
Yeah.
sort of a Mandela effect, I guess. Now here's the thing. This is what they changed it to, and it was always called a vest, so I guess this makes it closer to its name. But I don't think that that's
No,
why
that's a coincidence.
they changed it. If they were really worried about sticking true to the name of items, then perhaps the black finery would be black and
Yeah.
not brown, right?
Yeah.
This
Man.
is something
Man,
else.
she did an investigation, Angelika. Angelika did that investigation here.
And it's something that I will explore in this video and show you more examples of. But specifically looking at the Huntsman's vest, To me, this was a totally unnecessary change that I think nobody would ever complain about if they left it like before.
Well, I mean, like, here's the truth, right? What do you think the odds are that this was done in order to promote some form of lower amount of female sexualization in the game? What do you think the odds are that this is the case?
Can you guys explain to me what female sexualization is? Is it the idea, because I'm not familiar, again, I'm not that deep in the... I occasionally talk, I guess... or should I say, occasionally the topics that I cover overlap with the culture war. It's not because I seek the culture war, it's because the culture war has been enlarging so much that now anything you talk about, whether it be medicine, biology, history, geography, politics, science, it goes everywhere. I can't even talk about a freaking phone without going into politics these days. But regardless, linguistics, language, everywhere. What I wanted to say is that what is the sexualization of female or women in this case? Is it the idea of... or you only see a woman as a sex object? Is that what they're trying to say? Because honestly, the idea of being physically attracted, if you're a heterosexual man and you're physically attracted by a good-looking woman, good, means everything is working right. That's how the species survived. So there cannot possibly, it doesn't matter how much social constructs we add to that, that's a good thing. It's a bad thing when you've got people that are violent about it, or when you get people that are weird about it, but those are because they've got some problem in their head. A healthy brain, a healthy human, will find a degree of attraction for the opposite sex when it comes to heterosexual people. That's a good thing, because that's how the species reproduces. So I don't, even from a biological sense, from a religious sense, what God says, go and multiply and replenish the earth, hence, it is intended that way.
100%, right? It's 100%. And fundamentally, I don't want people going into my video games and changing them because of their worldview.
Sure.
I don't like their worldview. I disagree with it. Mm-hmm. And I think that more people need to speak out and say, stop changing things. We don't want this. Don't do it. That's it. People are entitled. Yes. The devs whine about it. Yeah.
You're saying that the changes
Kind of very, very logical take.
that appear to be so radical in the remaster were done in the name of embracing a more realistic look. But I feel like that all goes out the window when you think of an NPC that wears this clothing. So Branwen came to mind, and this particular change has made her and her situation look really silly and out of place. For context, this is a Redguard woman that can be found...
Does every fucking game, even a remaster game that had a complete graphic overhaul, need to be a fucking Gunnar game, for fuck's sakes?
What? What's a Gunnar? What does that mean?
So, let me ask you something. Why do I have to download a mod to make it...
Yeah, okay, so this is someone who's instead... I don't know if he's just doing it to spite or to create contention, but they're basically saying just download effing mods if it's a problem. Let's see how he responds, but I'm gonna say I probably will agree with him just by the looks of it. Oh, Gunnar is a sex addict, I see. So this person is an imbecile, but let's go.
Get the same whenever they were the ones that tried to make it different. Yeah. You're getting mad about this. To be a fucking Gunnar game. I don't understand why this is a problem. Can you not understand the problem that I have with this? So they actively change something and make it different than the way it was.
Yeah.
And now I'm the problem for recognizing that and saying that I don't like the change.
It's got to be a
troll.
How
is that? I understand a problem. Then why are you trying to invalidate it? I don't understand. So, like, if you understand the problem that I have with it, then why are you trying to say that I'm not allowed to have this problem? I don't understand this. Let me explain. Okay. It's not a one-to-one recreation, though? That should be expected?
Yeah, but not for politics, exactly. Not for politics. Of course it's not a one. Who cares if there was a wooden door, but now it's a bronze door? Might even be an upgrade, depending. Or maybe don't change too much because we like the nostalgia rush. But if they do it, it's the reasons behind it.
Why should you expect that they universally censor things in one direction? I would be completely okay with it being like a remaster and certain things are changed. But don't you think it's odd that every single one of these changes primarily is all in one direction? Don't you think that's...
Yeah, he's right. Well, could you imagine, again, as I say oftentimes, but could you imagine if they took Oblivion, the same people that say it doesn't matter, they would go nuts if they did something in the likes of Oblivion now is a MAGA simulator. They would go nuts. I also wouldn't like it. I just don't want any politics in the games that have to do with the modern. Just give me the games that are an escape from reality. Let me have the good fun, because hobbies were supposed to unite. I played Warhammer tabletop when I was freaking 14 with people of all ethnicities, cultural backgrounds, with people I will play with someone who was like a freaking Alleanza Nazionale, so kind of a right-wing guy. Then I played with Rifondazione Comunista, which was a guy who was an actual communist. I played with a socialist. I played with why a centrist, a Democrazia Cristiana. Why? Because at that moment it didn't matter, because the hobby was a uniting factor. But what these people are doing is that they're taking something that was supposed to unite, because Warhammer unites, and then they add the divisive politics, because politics are built to divide, and then because a divided group is easier to manage and control from the perspective of the elites, and then once you do that, then the hobby is going to become divisive too as a result of it, which is then denaturalized. So that's what happens. But could you imagine, if they took Oblivion and made it into a MAGA simulator, I would have a problem with that, because I'm like, don't put politics in games. But it is true, as he's saying, that usually is unidirectional. I want to see what this guy is going to say now. What is he going to say?
A little bit odd that that's happening. It's because they're doing it on purpose. It's intentional. The game is good. The remaster is immaculate. The overall quality of the game is amazing. Like, it doesn't have to be sexualized.
Says the Puritan. Says the medieval man who, I imagine when this guy is having a private moment with his girl, I'm just supposing here for a moment, he probably says, keep the clothes on, though. Keep the clothes on, because come on, shut up.
So you're not... What? That's not even what's being discussed. Nobody's even taught. That's not a reason. That has nothing to do with it. Waste of time.
He blocked him. Oh my gosh.
That's not even the point.
He blocked
Just look at the
him.
monsters every model that's been changed. It's not about cleavage, but design quality. I don't know. I think a lot of them look pretty good.
Yeah, Alone says some clothes could be a real turn on, though. Yeah, it's a good thing. I don't see anything wrong with it.
Sparring with an Argonian named Salith, in the hopes of making it in the arena. In the original, their outfits, or lack of clothes, perfectly fit their situation. This place is like a mini gym, and her attire is perfectly comfortable for what she's doing. It's sort of like a sports bra.
Oh, did they cover it?
In the remaster, without any context, you go up to this, and it just looks like two homeless people fighting.
Well, wait, what about equality? Why isn't he being covered at this point? I see metrical, you know? What is going on here?
First of all, this censorship doesn't extend to male characters, as they didn't decide to put a shirt on him, but she...
this is again...
fine, the scales are fine.
Like,
he has his tail out.
You can say, like, oh, well, it's a remaster and things are different, but when things just keep being different in one direction over and over and over...
It's gaslighting at that point.
A pattern begins to emerge.
So, guys, this is Argonian man has been sexualized. Stop sexualizing this man. Can we cover these damn scales? Put some clothes. Have some dignity, man.
This warm, furry vest to work out.
Yeah, it's a
Before
pattern.
this, in
It's
the
obvious.
original, the shirtless Argonian was completely fine, and I don't think you ever needed to ask them what they were doing to get the picture. Now, her look has had a direct impact on his, and they just look like beggars from the waterfront district having a disagreement.
That's
it looks
true.
ridiculous, and it was something that did not need to be changed at all. It has actually kind of ruined the particular scene here. No, it's not game-breaking, but it's...
Yeah, of course, it's not. And by the way, I'm not offended. I don't think Asmongold is offended. I don't think Angelika is offended. No one is offended here. I'm not offended. We're just cringing. It's a cringe fest. That's all this is.
It's definitely funny looking.
The problem is that these kinds of things are like a cancer, and if you don't stop it early on, it becomes worse. Like, for example, whenever Blizzard took the calling Sylvanas a bitch out of WoW, we didn't realize that would actually end up causing us to get an expansion that was so soy it was Dragonflight. We didn't know that at the time, but if you give these people an inch, they take a mile.
So, of course, I agree with the general sentiment. I don't know the specific situation was you talking about World of Warcraft? That's not a game I played, so I don't understand the reference. Also, I don't know soy in this question. I don't know what it means. So I'm having a little struggle here, I guess, from the deeper American culture. But regardless of that, I agree that if you give him an inch, they'll take a whatever the heck. So, yeah, wow.
That's it. That's it. Like, if you don't stop it early on, it becomes worse. Like, for example, whenever Blizzard took the calling Sylvanas a bitch out of WoW, we didn't realize that that would actually end up causing us to get an expansion that was so soy it was Dragonflight. We didn't know that at the time, but if you give them an inch, they take a mile.
So, of course, I agree with the general sentiment. I don't know the specific situation was you talking about World of Warcraft? That's not a game I played, so I don't understand the reference. Also, I don't know soy in this question. I don't know what it means. So I'm having a little struggle here, I guess, from the deeper American culture. But regardless of that, I agree that if you give him an inch, they'll take a whatever the heck. So, yeah, wow.
Yeah, and the paintings, exactly. Do you find, on one hand, they try and censor the game, but the same retards that try to sexualize kids in society in real life, it's double dumb. I don't want to say it's the same people.
But not in a good way.
So he means no lactose, Scarlet. I mean, sure.
Armor is also a bit of a hot topic right now, kind of for the same reasons.
Yeah.
So, in the original Oblivion, some of the armor...
Now, this is my realm. This is my realm right here. Yeah, I did look at the sets of armor. I've got to say, I think the armor looks pretty nice in the remaster. I keep wanting to say remake. I mean, I liked the steel set. And but what are they saying? What is she gonna say? That the iron armor now does not? Oh, because she had boob plates and now they removed it and put a breastplate. Well, believe it or not, I actually don't mind that too much because that's how medieval armor for women would have worked. But because they're doing it for we can't show breasts even if they're iron, then that still annoys me. Functionally speaking, it would be okay.
Looked quite different depending on whether you played a male or female character. Granted, not all of the armor had these differences. For example, the steel armor kind of looked the same on both men and women, so it's important to have this context.
And that's you know what that looks like? It's a late 15th century Milanese set, but I would say, due to the fact that the placard, the leather strap is clearly Italian in style, and so are the asymmetrical pauldrons. And thank every god and deity ever imagined and worshipped, they actually did it right, and the left is bigger than the right, as it should be, as the left is your line of defense. What I want to say is that this section of the placard actually looks more Germanic, looks more Gothic. So this, I would say, is inspired from a set of armor created in Milan, but for a German export.
And those facts before we go and get our pitchforks. Don't worry, there will be time for pitchforks later. Some really notable differences can be seen in things like the iron armor, the amber armor set, the chainmail armor, the...
Yeah, why did they go for the... I actually liked the grey... Well, this one still looks good though, but the color kind of makes it look like a lamppost.
Armor set, the chainmail armor, the...
Chainmail armor... Chainmail... Yeah, the male armor, whatever. I mean, I think they both look nice. I kind of like that they add... Again, I don't like that she looks like a lamppost. But apart from that...
It's always the same.
And
that one's not that much different.
Several others that you'll notice.
They look different. Orcish. Maybe I like the darker set more. It's like you're choosing between the night and, you know... Yeah, I kind of like the orcish this way better.
What they appear to have done is taken away the elements that incorporated the female form.
I see.
And made all armor look more bulky and pretty much like it does on male.
Well, this one looks nice, but I agree. It's obnoxious that they did this. It's obnoxious. There's no reason to do it.
Male characters. So
yeah, this is a really common trait and a common trend with like video games now, is that they try to create the way that like men and women look, and they use basically the exact same stuff. And it's totally unappealing, weird-looking characters that I don't think anybody actually wants to look at or have anything to do with.
He's absolutely right. And also, you say it's a fantasy game. Oh, I know. I don't have a problem with the fantasy elements. I love the fantasy elements, but I can still have an aesthetic perception that I could say, man, it looked better before. That's really all I'm doing. And I loved the mismatch. Like the steel armor looks great. It's not a carbon copy of what medieval armor. I mean, the fold looked wrong, but who cares? It looks good. It's fantasy. As long as it's aesthetically pleasing. I'm mostly just discussing the quality of the assets and the color palette at this point. Clearly, it's a fantasy setting, yes.
Yeah, nobody wants this. I don't think anybody's asking for this at all.
The major argument for doing this, and I can sort of see where they're coming from, is, again, going for realism. So it is true that armor, for the most part...
Okay, I can respect that she actually seems to have pulled stuff up from museums and didn't just Google medieval helmet and then risked showing something that was historically inaccurate. I can appreciate, I mean, yeah, cool.
Art was never really made for women.
Okay, I agree. Let's go for realism. You can't play as a girl. No girls.
Yeah, in fantasy it doesn't matter.
Thank God.
Or to fit the female body. That is because in many places in the world and many societies, it was widely accepted that war is for men. And only men go to war and need to wear armor.
That's true. I was about to say there are exceptions, but it seems like she is going into the exceptions. So due to the fact that she's willing to, of course, recognize the exceptions, this is clearly Joan of Arc, There are other exceptions. I'm not expecting neither him nor Angelica to know about the population called the Ayazagis or the Sarmatians, or the populations of the steppes or the Akkadian kingdom, and the situations in which the sources do mention that there were in fact women that would put on armor and fight, but those are still very small percentages. So the only way in which I would have a problem with people saying, I don't have a problem with people saying that in the majority of cases it's men that went to war. War is a male-dominated aspect of society, and therefore combat and armor in the majority of cases is connected with male and men. But there are exceptions. So the only problem I have is when someone says it never happened. Then I'll take every single historical example from the sources and I will annihilate their position. But unless it's someone like that, and I've heard people, I've already done a couple of debunkings, but unless it's like that, what they are saying, both of them, they are correct. Generally speaking, it is chain male, it's not chain female. So there's that.
A few exceptions, of course, instances where armor may have
Joan of
been
Arc.
made to fit
Yes.
a particular
Look at
person.
Joan of Arc.
Like, it's believed that Joan of Arc had her armor made specifically for her, courtesy
Yes.
of King Charles VII of France. But
Yep.
for the most part, if a woman did wear armor, it was just armor that was standard and made for men to begin with.
Yeah.
You guys will know that I am somebody that advocates for realism in fantasy worlds.
Yeah.
But what I mean by this is that I want to see it grounded within the predefined parameters of any given fantasy world. So
Yeah.
my counter argument here is this. Unlike the real world, in Oblivion, women do go to war.
Yes.
In Elder Scrolls in general, women go to war. You see this in your first 2 minutes of playing Oblivion,
That's true.
where you meet Captain Renault wearing a full set of blades armor and escorting the Emperor to safety. That's kind of a big deal. I
Yeah.
sort of touched on this in a video before where I spoke about how there don't appear to be the same predefined gender roles in Tamriel as there are in our real world. Therefore,
Some areas of commonalities you can still see. I mean, women are wearing dresses and men are not, but still, I agree, it's slightly different. It's a different world. It's a fantasy world, so it's fine.
realism in this case would mean that male form is also taken into account when making armor, as women are out there just as much as men. And again, this was a thing in the original. It was already decided that this is a thing, so
Well, I think that the reason why they don't do it is because they don't want to make armor that sexualizes women.
That's true.
And
yeah.
they view a acknowledgement of the female form in any way as sexualizing women.
Yep.
And that's why you see a lot of these like Western games that are made that are just totally fucking, again, it has these ugly androgynous characters. Like look at Marathon, look at Concord.
Oh,
It's
Concord.
the exact same mindset.
Ooh, Concord has been mentioned. What a catastrophe that game was. What a cataclysm. What a cataclysm, guys.
I don't see why they couldn't continue with it. I find it a particularly silly change for things like the amber armor. Like, the
Yeah.
concept of amber armor is very fantastical, surreal. Surely with how magical and out of this world this looks, we can allow for it to fit nicely on a female character. So
Sure.
realism is great and all, but it shouldn't get to the point where you're taken out of the fantasy world, especially not in a remaster or remake scenario where you already have a point of reference.
Yeah.
Upon further inspection, they did this with statues as well. So if the statue
Yeah.
had some curves or a more risque appearance, this would be toned down. For example,
I mean, it's true. It's like proven beyond the shadow of a doubt. As she was saying, is it a game-breaking change? No, but the simple fact that the change happens is annoying. And if anyone were to say at this point, but why do you care? Why does it matter? Well, it mattered enough for you to change it. Therefore, you lost the privilege to use that as a line of argumentation, just as a matter of deductive logic.
I don't know, guys. It's a huge nerf. That's a massive nerf. It's a gigantic nerf. Baldur's Gate 3 is considered woke, even if it didn't take away the boobs from the armor. Baldur's Gate 3 is not considered woke by anybody. Nobody except for the biggest retards on the internet think Baldur's Gate 3 is woke. The problem that people have is that this is one-dimensional desexualization that doesn't happen to male characters. It doesn't happen to men. It's only with women, and it's only in one way. That's the problem that people have. Silly, but that's like one point.
Well, the Meridia statue in Oblivion looked like this.
Yep.
And in the remaster, they made it look kind of like it does in Skyrim, but it's definitely
I
safer
see.
for work overall.
Yeah,
After
it
seeing
is.
this, it kind of occurred to me that perhaps they decided to make all of the Daedric shrines look more Skyrim-like. But then I visited Azura, and she was way more toned down and covered up
Oh, I've
than
seen this
even
one.
the Skyrim version. Whereas in the original Oblivion, she looked like this.
Yep.
And if more Skyrim-like was the goal here, why didn't they change the Molag Bal statue to look like it does in ESO?
Well, it's obvious the reason why. I mean, they're censoring and changing the game in order to make it more in line with their worldviews in real life. That's the reason why. It's obvious. I mean, if you look at this kind of stuff and you don't come to that conclusion, you're being dishonest. Yeah, it's very weird.
Yeah.
This depiction of him is arguably better known even, but they decided to stick to the original. Now here's where the consistency falls through, and this is what kind of makes me question the purpose of changing these things at all. Now maybe they missed this, but interestingly, they also didn't change the mermaid
Chatception.
statue in Anvil. In fact, I think they maybe even improved her a little bit with the pose, but
Yeah, they did.
that's just my opinion. Other than that, where I thought they might censor her...
And this is another element of like the weirdness of like this like weird sexual censorship.
Yeah, she's
Is
good,
that-
Dylan.
They have no problem. I don't know if you guys have noticed this with a lot of games, is that a lot of these video games have no problem making very sexualized characters that don't have humanoid traits. Like, for example,
Right.
like they have like that flame Atronach who like still has a big ass, or they have like this mermaid, or they have things like this. But there's always some form of thing that makes them inhuman to make it some form of like safe horny. Have you guys noticed this before? Like I've seen this like probably 10 or 15 times now.
Minoan outfits.
Okay. Very weird.
Now at this point in the video, I know somebody has probably thought of the spider Daedra. So yes, I did decide to take a closer look at that as well. So my take on this is, they don't look bad, they retain pretty much the same essence,
I didn't
although
see
I would have
this.
liked to see
Again,
I didn't see this in game.
look at it through that lens from now on.
that bright red incorporated into their outfits, but
Right.
it's fine. However, if we address the elephant in the room, their
Both of
chest
them.
is visibly smaller. Let's stop for a second and think who the spider
a little
Daedra
bit.
are. They are closely associated with the Daedric prince Mephala. Mephala, who is the prince of lies, sex, murder, and secrets.
Oh my gosh.
A prince that uses seduction to get closer to mortals
I
and
know where
trick
she's
them,
going.
get them entangled in her cunning web. These
So she got to
spider
have some big ass titties for that. Yeah, exactly.
Daedra are the perfect ambassadors for such a prince.
Yep.
And so having a
I mean,
more
yeah.
exaggerated chest like they did in the original would have been arguably more lore accurate and in character.
Of course.
Man, Angelika has done research. Basically, Angelika has put the same amount of research that I put into my deep analyses videos, the ones where I go like really deeply to the sources. That's what she's done. She's done the same thing. She's actually bringing in the sources. Oh, that's so funny.
No, this is by no means a horrible change that completely ruins the game. But I wonder about the message that it sends
Welcome back,
when,
Captain.
even in a scenario where the female body tells a part of the story and lore, they choose to tone it down like it's a bad thing. And it's not like Oblivion is a game where historically all women had super exaggerated bodies and jiggle physics and lots of focus on that sort of thing. So this also meant that having something more open and out there, or откровенное, like we say in Russian, made it that much more effective.
Yeah.
If people are worried about over-sexualization, let's be real, those who really want to make things more exaggerated
They got
and blown
mods
out of
for that.
proportion will
Yeah.
mod
Of
that
course,
right into
exactly.
the game. But
yeah.
that does not mean that we can't have tasteful depictions of the female form in the game by default.
Well, this is the thing, is that there's no one who hates attractive women more than unattractive women. And I think this is what's happened a lot, is that, and you see this, I think the best example of it is the amount of animosity and hostility that, for example, like fat women have towards women who are not fat.
Right.
They will constantly body shame women who aren't fat. They'll, you know, like try to like say, oh, you're not skinny enough. There's something wrong with you. Where's your tits? Like, oh, you don't have any curves, etc. You've seen this many, many times, right? And so, and it's also like, obviously, like, being overweight is only one aspect of it. I think that there are a lot of other aspects as well.
She's on
There
YouTube,
are,
okay.
if you think that, like, I am mean about this kind of stuff, or like any guy is mean, you should see some of these girls' group chats that get leaked. Like,
Right.
I look like a fucking saint. I look like I'm a nice guy compared to them. They are
Right.
fucking savage. They
Right.
recognize shit I didn't even know existed. Yeah, so basically we're facing the ire of women working on these games. I don't know if it's like necessarily women working on the games, because I don't think all the women are like that. What are your
Okay,
thoughts on
good.
the sexualization setting that allows you to dynamically turn it on based on gamers' preference? That way there's nothing to argue about. I don't know about that. I mean, I feel like that's just more work, right? I mean, I think you should
No,
do...
I wouldn't have a problem with that. If there sometimes you can remove nudity from games, allow it, remove it. I appreciate the option, I guess. I don't see that as a problem. So no, I wouldn't have a problem with that. If you want to put a little bar that you can move around, what do you call it? Then whatever. I mean, at the end of the day, it's more choice for the player. I don't have a problem with that.
do the thing that 90% of people want. Like, that's generally what I think you should do. You should do, like,
Yeah.
if there's 90% of people on one side of an issue, you just do that thing.
For
Probably more like
customers,
95 or 99.
Tasteful, I mean, they fit perfectly into their world and story.
Angelica, was Oblivion censored?
But they actually have been
go.
censoring the new Oblivion.
All of this censorship and hiding of the female figure is a really weird way to remaster something.
Well,
Almost
it's women that don't like women that are attractive. And it's men that think that they can... This is another thing, too,
Exactly,
is that these
K-Vel,
women exist
cozy.
in an ecosystem
Yeah.
of simp men that will be obedient to them and agree with them about everything because these men want to fuck them. That's the reason why. And it's a form of them signaling that, oh, I'm one of the good ones. That's the reason why.
women should be more covered up and toned down in general. It's especially difficult to understand when you see that again, for the male characters, this was not at all changed. Speaking of Daedra,
Yeah, so I'm actually starting to understand it. The people that do these things, mark my words, they don't do it to defend women. They do it to get one over to the men. Because how dare you be attracted by a woman who doesn't look like me because she's conventionally attractive. If I had to guess, I would say that's what it is. Probably 100%. That's what I think it is. 10,000%. I'm just having like a moment of clarity. That's what it is.
Or One
as
Direction.
buff, as detailed, and as shirtless as ever. Why is this okay, but this is not? I will say, they
just
did put
explained it.
shorts on the zombies, which again, consistency, I don't know.
Also, the zombies looked better in the original. This is the original on the right. Zombies on the left, it's one of the assets that I actually prefer in the original, because even though, yeah, of course, it's a more modern asset when it comes to texture, the zombie on the left looks like a generic zombie that you could find in any game about zombies. But the zombie on the right has it has a fantasy dark magic feel to it. And it also is very typical with this green skin hue, kind of grayish, and then the looks of it, it's sometimes they are without a head, if you remember. There is something very recognizable and original about the zombies assets in the original Oblivion.
It's really
Mr.
weird.
Mark.
Let's look
Yeah.
at the Shivering Isles, the famous saints and seducers. The interesting thing about their societies is that they are matriarchies, and this is so deeply ingrained in their being that we even see it in how armor is modeled after females and not males. So the male variant of the seducer armor
got his
and the
nipples
saints
out.
armor is actually much more revealing and feminine on the men. One weird thing that I
Wow.
noticed, again related to the chest area, is that it almost seemed more detailed and more modern in the OG version of Oblivion than it does in the remaster.
Huh.
Yeah, that's probably because the guys that made the original game spent a lot more time on this. I believe.
Good point. Yeah, look. That's so strange because texture-wise, I mean, they both look good. I'm not going to say that this looks bad. It looks good. And I have to say that both hues are fine. When it comes to the color palette, I think they're both good. In fact, maybe this one reminds me of Saint Seiya. So I actually like the hue more in the new one. The hue of gold that they have given it. But texture-wise, this is so strange.
Believe
Whatever
that.
way it's done here is clearly to draw
Yeah, I
less
definitely
attention
believe
to
that.
it, but it's just a bit strange when put side by side with the original. Like on the original, look at the contour and the definition on
Shoulders,
the skin,
yeah.
and here, there's just nothing. These are all small examples on their own, I know,
They
but
add
when
up.
put together, it does make me think about what the future holds in terms of depictions of female characters. I think that the Elder Scrolls always did a great job of depicting women in a way that was tasteful, even if there was an accent on sensuality and their bodies. It
Yeah.
always felt right to the world and to women that played the games also. There's two
Do you
things.
actually think this kind of censorship is done because of more people from non-Western countries playing the games? No.
No.
It's the opposite.
No.
I think it's Western countries that are enforcing this on other
Absolutely.
countries. The reality
Absolutely.
is that with a lot of these games, there are, or not games, but like a lot of these like different, games.
Games.
In like Asian audiences, they like it one other way, right?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Look at, a lot of these games made in China or like
yeah.
Japan, or especially in Korea, right? No, this is a Western, primarily American problem that we have exported to the rest of the world.
He's absolutely right. I will say one thing about the East, since I'm familiar with the eastern side of the world as well, but as many of you are, of course. I would say that this is absolutely the case. In fact, Capcom of America influenced Capcom of Japan in the creation of Street Fighter 6, and this is we know that happened. So basically, if Capcom of America hadn't gone into Capcom of Japan requiring certain types of characters to be created in a certain way in order to have politics in the game, I don't think the Japanese would have done it. They did it because of the pressure. With that being said, on the Asian side of things, sometimes I will have to say that they make some characters to be a bit too young looking, particularly with a combination of certain clothing. So it's not like the some Asian markets in the production of games are like perfect. But with that being said, it is absolutely true that the Western gaming AAA section of the Western market has absolutely now started to, I'm going to use the word, infect the Japanese production. I honestly don't think the Chinese are going to put up with it, though. I'm not a fan of the Chinese government, but when it comes to developing, let's remove the government for a moment. When we look at the actual developers, I really cannot imagine a Chinese person going, 对对，我喜欢这个非常好. I don't. I can't imagine it. With the Japanese, I think there might be a little bit of a cultural misunderstanding in the sense that because the Japanese have a little bit of a tendency, which we do too, but the Japanese have a little bit of a tendency that when they see something that they don't really understand in the West, they think that all Western people think that way. And I imagine we do that with them too. I mean, I don't, but I have a degree in Asian studies, so that's different. But the general average person might do that too. I can only imagine someone working at Capcom of Japan, a Japanese man, and he's receiving these emails and he's talking with the people in charge, and they're like, Western Capcom of America said that we need to put all of these different people and we need to represent, and we need to have the strong woman that looks like a man, and we need to have the guy who is literally wearing, the one with the microphone, who is wearing the colors of the transgender flag. Like, there are a lot of things that are there. Whether you like them or not, let's set the intellectual mutual respect and intellectual honesty on looking and seeing things for the way they are. And then, of course, the pronouns and whatnot. So all of this, and then you can't use male and female, reaches Japan, and they think, that's what Western people want. So the studio thinks, well, let's make Western people happy, not knowing that there is going to be a massive amount of backlash from the very West, because not everyone likes. Some people do. A lot of people don't, particularly in the gaming. So I can already imagine the Japanese going, すみません、わかりました。すみません、申し訳ないです。I know it.
This is a Western American problem that we have created.
That this kind of reminds me of. So one, have you ever seen those CD or album covers in the Middle East? So you have the version that was made in the West, and then what was actually sold in the Middle East.
We're going the other way
How
around.
The female artists are much more covered up because that's in their culture, and that's just how it has to be. But the other example is when World of Warcraft changed the paintings of women to bowls of fruit, while all of the allegations about the ongoing...
And keep in mind, I have never seen a single instance of a game that goes from this to this that gets better.
What?
Every game that starts falling into this trap gets worse.
Literally, we're talking apple and oranges. But literally. These paintings are apple and oranges. Man, these people would censor the Italian Renaissance. You wait until they see one of the paintings from the great artists of the Italian Renaissance. They would censor everything. These are worse than the medieval Inquisition.
Now, Oblivion is going to get carried by the fact that it had great content.
Yeah, because they
But
didn't
it does
change
make
that.
me worried for Elder Scrolls 6.
Banana in the... Yeah, sure.
Or 5,
go,
or whatever
go.
the hell it is.
Oh, gosh.
Harassment at Blizzard were coming out. This doesn't help the situation at all.
6?
This isn't accountability. It's just the erasure of something beautiful that can absolutely be appreciated in a respectful way.
Absolutely.
But when you take it out, I guess you're just sending a message that maybe women are too much. Can't respect them if they look like this, or
Nope.
what exactly are they trying to say? All in all, I do want to state that I think that the remaster is fantastic.
I do
There
too.
are so
It's
many
really
elements to it that are super beautiful, and I've been admiring the world, admittedly even off stream. I just wish that small and unnecessary changes like this weren't made to, you know, make it more authentic to the original.
Well, here's what you have to keep in mind, is that the game was obviously approved by people that work at the company.
Yeah.
And I think that because this
suits.
was done under the direction of Bethesda, and this type of thing is also in Starfield as well,
Right.
I would be very concerned about the new games that they make in the future, because
no.
it's likely that they will be infected with this same type of mental rot as well.
Ooh, we are going into... Guys, do you think that's going to happen to Elder Scrolls 6? What do you guys think? Man, that's... Prepare the mods.
That's just the way it is.
Good video so far, both of them, by the way.
And so, yeah, Todd has the final say. Yeah, they have it. And yeah,
before.
I don't want to have video games
see.
that are designed by HR. I don't think anybody
Absolutely.
wants that.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's important to be able to draw the distinction between...
Get in before it
like,
happens.
I played the Oblivion Remaster. You guys know a lot, right?
Yeah.
I put a lot of time into it. I think it's a great game.
Yeah.
But I do think that these things are actively immersion breaking for the people that recognize them and
Yes.
identify them, because they realize that now you're in a world that's being created and curated and censored in order to, like, protect a certain type of viewpoint that most people simply don't have.